Oh, what happened to Zimba? I thought he was going to the restroom and he never returned. That was just disconnected. 2 weeks ago. Up there, her little mattress.
That matters today.
Yeah. It's probably gonna be all
Yeah, you're back.
What's going in? Not more, 100 months.
bigger muzzle.
Oh, God, okay.
That's, you're gonna be the.
The owner that lives in Southern. I am not. 154.
I'll show you my house. So we should know come here all the time. Or I'm over here somewhere.
There.
Here I am. So see here, I'm at 522. Here's 522. See, the back of my property is canopy. So there's a little bit of hill behind my house. But the dog lived over here. He came darting this way and then stayed here. And then I kind of hot tied him, you know, to get him to calm down. It is, yeah. They do not. Where I am, it's about a 10-foot slope down into their yard. You know, and then so deer lane and crop.
I thought they were both on there.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, that one sounded good. Sergeant Wilson? Yeah. I second that. You not I can't find it.
Yeah, I know. You rewind it.
He must have taken off. But I thought you said he's not in the restaurant.
Oh.
Unless they put it in a holding cell. I thought he was sticking around.
He shook my hand. He shook my hand. You know,
Yeah, same here.
then he went to sit down.
Yeah, and he
Then he
sat
got
there
up
for a
and there
while.
was a.
That's what I thought. And I haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Where? Okay. All right, well, we are reconvened. I see Mr. Schuster's not with us. There he is.
There he is.
Okay. Okay, we are back to regular session. We've got the oaths. We're starting with the president's report. The first thing is assignments and appointments. The assignment for trustees, I'm going to leave the same. Mr. Thorne will take up Mr. Merkel's place, public buildings and environment. And now the rest of you guys can stay where you are.
Okay.
Change any seats on that this time. Next item is the fiscal year 2022 budget. what I would like to do is approve the salary portions of the budget tonight, but refrain on approving the entire budget until we get through the sewer fund, the water fund, and the 5-year cap. Okay, not sure we got Dennis to get through all of it tonight, but as I said, what I would like to do is the salaries, which if you recall, are set by the union contract of 2% for all union and the non-union employees. The only exception to that I would like to make this evening is on Sharon Lawson's salary, is to bring her to a straight $18 an hour. So other than that, I guess it's back to the budget and we go pretty much with what we've got. Hold on, my computer decided it was going to go to sleep. There we go. We're getting there. Okay. Oh, not again. This is the new budget, the new agenda, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Should have a paper one in front of you.
The agenda? Oh, I'm looking on my tablet so I can get my info. Okay. Oh, we got the oath of office done. We got the budget.
Page 6 on the layout, on the 6 of 31.
I got page 5.
Oh, okay.
Depends on whose system. Okay. We briefly went through the general fund last time. The only change there that we've made right now, there is a change I want to bring to your attention on the revenue side. I anticipate $30,000 coming from Elgin. If you recall, earlier this year, we had a conversation that the sales tax agreement with Elgin seemed to be a little on the short side. The village attorney has gone back to Elgin. They have audited their books and they found that we were correct. They do owe us 6 months of pay.
Good.
So they estimate that they had started paying early because Elgin is on a fiscal year that goes January 1st, December 31st. Our fiscal year goes May 1st to April 30th. They started paying back in January of the year before. They were supposed to pay us so yeah, they were a half a year ahead of the schedule. But they did realize that they've lost the last half that they owe us. The last half they calculate to be $35,000 in change. So if they've already paid us 6 months earlier, they're going to deduct that 6 month pay, which was about $5,500 from the $35,000 in change that they owe us. So we will be seeing from them for next year's budget, approximately $30,000 check. So revenues went up $30K. Let's see okay. That was general funds. Is there any other change in that I really, no, the rest of it's all budget. I don't think we have any problems. Was there any questions on the general fund?
From the, I had a question. From the original sheets we had, under the total fund revenue and beginning balance, then the total fund expenses, and then the fund surplus. I know that we moved money, we transferred to the 5-year.
Oh, that was it.
The 271,000 and then 175,000. 2021, 2022. So bottom line there on fund surplus, and this is, well, mine shows page 12 of 31, but it's the general fund page 7.
Page 7, yeah.
where we have in parentheses 101%. So that's the difference from what originally we had it as 144%, but that was prior to the transfer of funds. So I understand that percent. So our fund surplus is actually 3962.
That is the budgeted requested. That's what, if everything goes according to the budget as it sets right now, we'll have $3,962.
Right.
Okay?
Because the sheets we're looking at prior had a larger number, but that number went into the 5-year
Right.
fund. Okay.
Right.
Uh,
We had roughly $271,000 that was transferred
Right.
into 5-year cap.
Right.
Okay, so that didn't reduce our surplus that we suspect for or we are expecting for next year.
Okay. Good.
However, it does make this year's look really goofy because if you deduct that 271,000 from the 192,000, you'll see that we'll be seeing about a $65,000 to $70,000 surplus this year. But because we made that big transfer from last year's funds, it makes this one look a little goofy right now. That'll straighten out. Okay.
And I would know.
And nothing else on general? Okay. Special service area number 2. That is there by law. We do have a special service area set up for the detention pond. Should we have to maintain it, then we can tax the property owner. That's the only reason this is here. Otherwise, it's zero.
That's the Bluffs one retention pond, right?
Correct. Joe, your volume just went up.
Well, y'all make up your mind.
Lower your voice.
You said it was too noisy. Let's see. Hang on.
Hang on.
How's that?
No, up a little.
How's that?
Up a
One
touch.
from Alaska.
How's that?
Same.
How's that?
Good.
There we are.
Take your hands off.
Right where it was, but that's okay.
All right, thank you, Joe. Okay, the next item is motor fuel tax. That is the money that we get from the state based upon how often you fill up your car or don't gas up your car. We really have no control over those numbers. It's a percentage that, or a per capita amount that we get from the state. But we're expecting to have about $270,000 in that. 237 at the end of fiscal year 2022. The next one is the 5-year cap. First item on 5 years is the revenue. And of course, you see the drugs and forfeiture. That belongs to the police department. We can't touch it. That's their money. So they've got that in there. It's not as high as we'd anticipated, but then this past year, the activity on the street hasn't been as high. So that has dropped the number of DUIs on the street, but it also means our revenues go down too. Next item is the transfer from general fund to MFT or 5-year cap. This year we've transferred 271,000. We anticipate next year being able to transfer 175,000. So those are just transfers. If we've got the money, we can make it. If not, we don't do them. The next one are the expenses. Joe, you asked about the copier. We had no capital expenditures in general admin last time. You asked about the copier. The copier,
Right.
the copier was replaced in 2014, I believe it was. It's about 6 or 7 years old. It cost $6,000 when we got it in 14. It is currently available to be purchased new for $6,300 if you need a new one.
Don't we have I was under the impression from Mike Sparrow that we had a service agreement or something for it, or a long-time lease on it or something, or long-time service
We've got a
agreement for it?
service agreement. We've got an annual service agreement.
That was my question. How long is that? How much is that service agreement and how long does that last? Or is that a yearly thing?
That's a yearly thing.
That was the one Mike Sparrow said that we could be saving some money on, was the service agreement. So,
Okay, well, that one I didn't look. I just looked into the price of the copier.
talk to Mr. Sparrow about that because he had some suggestions about that about a couple of years ago about how we could save significant money with that
Service.
copier.
Okay, the service contract.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, if you could buy a copier for $6,000 in
No.
2014 and it's $6,300 today, I'm not investing in copiers.
no, I believe no, I don't want to invest in a new copier. I believe that the Mike Sparrow said there was some savings and I thought it was a service agreement. And I think he may have thought that we leased it. So I don't know, but talk to him about our copier because he had some good suggestions.
Okay, will do.
If I have a question under the police protection, are we? at
Well,
that point
let's
yet?
see where we are here. We got general out of the way. We don't see any needs on that one. Okay, we get to
Equipment. I missed the
police.
equipment. Okay. So we have projected for 2022, the 48,371, which on the previous budget documents that we first received back in April, that was for a new squad vehicle, $48,371.
Still is.
I would like to know, why do we need one? Do we need one? I don't think we have the money to buy one in the 2022 budget, and I would like it to be pushed off to 2023. But what's the rationale and why? Because my recollection is since I've been on the board, I think we've authorized 2 police vehicles. And I don't see how we can extend another police vehicle in a 2022 budget for $48,000.
When are they normally replaced,
Uh,
mileage wise?
I can give you some background on that. Typically, we keep 5 squads and we roll them at the end of the 5th year when they have approached 100,000 miles. Okay, that has been, in a nutshell, the plan. Okay, 5 years retention. When it gets close to 100, out. A couple years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Chief Lanane started getting the 150-mile protection plan on the vehicles, so we could push the mileage a little bit further beyond the 100 before we'd have to sell them. Okay, I don't have the logs on this right now in front of me. I don't know if the sergeant has them with her. And
The reason I bring it up is, with the recent election and the tax referendum failing, and I'm not suggesting that the couple areas where I'm going to look at reducing expenses are going to make us as a village go into the black, but it potentially could reduce our deficit so that we can maintain a little longer with current expenses. And I just think that, we're not a geographically large village. I understand we have, major winter storms, and most newer vehicles can go in the higher 100,000, 130,000, 150,000 area. So I would just like us to consider if the particular squad that would be replaced with this new squad, is there a way to identify what is the real life of that existing squad that's going to be swapped out, and perhaps it could go longer, and that would remove the 48,000 from the 2022 budget.
I know one thing that we had talked about, some of the reason why we kind of moved the squads on is because we find out that we have lower miles on them and we're able to get more money out of them when we sell them. Thus, it helps that rate. The more miles we have on them when we sell them, the less we get. So that was one of the reasons we looked at. I'm open to conversation and ideas. So, but that was one of the reasons why we were trying to replace our squads a little more often so we could still get something out of the used squads when we sold them, other than pretty much, not a whole lot.
And I will say that Chief Linane, that was one of the first things he did when he came on, is looked at the extended warranties and replacing our vehicles and ran out all those numbers, Steve, for what they're
Right.
worth and what it costs. And I can say is before that, we would keep vehicles well beyond their lifespan. I mean, because most of these
Right.
vehicles don't get up, they don't get up to speed. They spend a lot of time idling. And Steve can go back, remember the days where we were just spending inordinate amounts of money to keep vehicles running, and then basically giving them away because they still weren't worth anything. I mean, we spent thousands of dollars on
Right.
transmissions and engine repairs and suspensions and springs. And as I said, if you want to look at it, Anthony, that Chief Linane ran all these numbers out for spreadsheets for, a decade or 2 decades to come. I mean, and the numbers just made sense. And that's why we've just gone to this one a year, because for a while there, we'd have 2 cars breaking, have to replace 2 in a year because the money we spent on them. So,
Yeah, and I understand, historical information, but, it's 2021 and we struggle as a village with our budget as it is. And, Sleepy Hollow, I don't know how many square miles we are, but I could drive the whole village in 15 minutes. We're not on 290 or I-94, doing 100 miles an hour chasing criminals down streets. I just think that it's a poor use of finance spending at this point, based on what we've gone through financially. I'm not going to say any more. You guys know where I stand. I'm just throwing it out there as a questionable expense.
It never hurts to look at it again. I mean, the village, the tax rates, we gotta make cuts everywhere. That's what the residents told us. So if Anthony's saying, let's review it, let's just take a look at it. Chief, if you would, please.
Well, you want to scratch that amount out then for the time being?
I would make a motion that we scratch that amount out for the time being, $48,371 from the vehicle police protection line on the 2022 budget.
Do we need to do it right now, Steve?
Well, we're going to have to make a decision whether going forward, do we leave it in or do we take it out?
well, can I say is that this is
Well-
just a budget, and we can't authorize the sale or the expenditure of that until we actually approve that expense in a board meeting. So we could leave it in the budget as a budgeted item, and then have the chief run through the numbers and what it's going to cost, and then we can, as a board, vote no to actually spend that money to buy the vehicle. Because just since it's in the budget doesn't mean we can spend it.
Correct.
Okay,
That sounds good.
fair enough.
Okay. Okay, Anthony's fine with that. All right, we will leave that in the budget for the time being and let the new chief take over on that decision. Parks and Recreation. Here's $180,000 that I stuck in there when we were looking at the referendum. If you recall, a little over a year ago, we had residents come to us asking about replacing the equipment in Saddle Club Park. And we said we had no funds. When we talked about going for a referendum, one of the questions was, what would we use those monies for? That was park equipment. Therefore, that's where $180,000 come from. If you don't want to spend $180,000 on park equipment, since the referendum didn't pass, we can scratch that right now and then. Right
Well,
here.
what I would like to do is, again, I just refer back to the April sheet, that's where I have my notes. We had Sabatino Park equipment was, and I'll get to 180,000 here in a second. Sabatino Park equipment was 50,000. There was a new mower for 15,000, and then the Saddle Club Park was 115,000. My recommendation would be to scrap the Saddle Club Park equipment, which I think is a board we voted on a while back. However, take some of that money and apply it to the Sabatino Park equipment, which is the main, I call it the main area of the village where all residents can come. And perhaps we had 50,000 in there before, perhaps make it 100,000. Again, I don't know what the equipment would cost or whatever, but to put in a budget number to help update the equipment that's here. The mower, I was gonna ask Kyle, it's probably, is that like the mower we use to do the field?
No, it's the John Deere zero turn mower. I believe we bought that 3 years ago.
Right, and the one we have now, we can try to sell, or?
That we only have one zero turn, and then we have the big blue tractor that does the fields. Those are the only two mowers we have.
And this would help a lot with maintaining the grounds.
Well, I don't understand. I'm not putting in for a new mower this year.
I think you picked up one from the last year.
Well, that's where I get the 180, the 50, 15, and the 115.
I believe under Parks and Rec, there was 12,000 left over from when we purchased the John Deere 3 years ago, because the initial budget item for that was, I believe, around 24,000. And with the trade-in value of the previous John Deere, that was what was left over.
So Kyle, do you need a new mower? Did you put one in the budget?
Not this year, but probably in a year or a year and a half.
Okay.
Okay, so scratch that 15 out of your equation there, Anthony.
Right.
What else?
So Ed, I know you've been talking with the Park District. How much will they estimate our contribution would be to replace Saddle Club? Not Saddle Club, Sabatino Park equipment?
We haven't had that meeting yet because they wanted to see the result of the referendum. And they want to know how much money we have.
I'll say that I've been doing a lot of walking lately in various parks, and in the time that we've upgraded that park, and of course it gets a lot more use, but Randall Oaks has been, all their parks have been upgraded 3 times. And you look at the parks there and you look at ours, it's looking like it needs a time for refresh. And every time I go down there, sometimes twice a day, there are always kids and families out there playing. And I know at least around us, the last 3 homes that have sold have come in with people with young families and young kids. So if we want to keep them having people want Sleepy Hobby someplace that people want to live, I think that would be a wise investment, is replacing that equipment.
I agree. Backing up a little bit, they have inspected Sabatino Park. Something has to be done with the equipment. And that's where it stands now. Sabatino is a showcase of Sleepy Hollow, so we got to leave something in the budget.
I'd say 100,000.
Sabatino.
You want to make that 100,000?
I would make the 180, 100, and it would be for the Sabatino. If we're taking out the mower line here, which is part of the 180, and then the money out of the Saddle Club, but adding some to Sabatino, I would say $100,000 for.
Correct.
But to Joe's point, if it's in a budget, we vote then when we decide to dispense those monies. Ed, would you want to put in more?
No.
Or you think 100 would be?
And remember, the Park District.
Oh, right.
Cost share.
Okay.
I think 100 we'd be safe with that.
You
Even
think?
though they say it's no longer safe, you guys got to replace everything.
Okay.
That would be the worst case.
Right.
Right. And I will say that from my past experience, that it's very expensive to replace parts that need to be replaced, because they generally are custom made and a lot of the parts are no longer available. So it's not really cost effective to make repairs to a park equipment that old.
Yeah, I'm expecting that. I took pictures of all the equipment and I'm ready for this meeting, but I don't think they'll do it piecemeal.
Right.
So yeah,
All
I
right,
think
good.
100 would be generous.
Okay, so we can reduce that by 80,000.
I would say, yeah.
Yes.
All right,
Thank you.
okay. Next item is village property. Mr. Thorne? First
$1
time?
million.
What? Village property, we've got 40,000 and change in there. There's 3 items that make up that amount. And one of them, for, I don't know, it's like the 4th year, is $27,000 to re-roof the salt barn.
Mhm.
Then we've got about $5,300 proposed for an air conditioning and heating system that would be utilized in this room, the boardroom. This is one of those ventless systems that would be incorporated into the wall here. And basically we do 2 things. We'll do 3 things: provide the heat and the cooling to this room, which we don't have. And typically, the summertime, this room is a sweat box. This wintertime, it's a refrigerator. The other thing it would do is provide circulation to the air in here, since we don't have any. That's the $5,300 item. The other one is about $8,700, and that is for a second furnace. We've been told that the one furnace we've got stuffed in the closet is not enough. It's insufficient for the entire building. We need a second unit for the police site. That one would run about $8,800. There's your 40 some odd $1,000 in village property and buildings. So thoughts on
Let me just
and air conditionings and salt domes?
Let me just say that Art had said that he could buy the pieces to get those crank windows to work again very inexpensively, and it's fairly easy to do. I have no problem wearing a sweater in the winter to save the village some funds. I've never been too hot in there. I'm okay with no air conditioning in there and being able to open up the windows. The elephant in the room is that our building inspector has told us that our roof on that building is one thunderstorm away from leaking and have to be replaced. So I am all for saving as much money as we can, sweatering up or opening a window. So I don't favor putting anything into that room as far as heating or air conditioning.
We're asking cuts from everybody.
That's us too.
That's it.
I can wear a sweater.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I definitely think we have to keep the roof for the salt shed. That's been kicked down the road several years, and I know it's getting to the point of no repair anymore. So I think we definitely have to keep that in there and make that happen.
I agree, and I'm sure Kyle does too. That roof is terrible.
Pretty bad.
If we take off the furnace, the heater for this room, is 26 enough for the salt dome?
27.
Do we
27.
make it 30? I don't know. I'm just,
Let me put it this way, Anthony. The first estimate to roof that barn or that salt dome was about $7,000. Then the state came up and said it has to meet prevailing wages. When we go back, we either cannot find a roofer who will meet prevailing wages, or we got the $27,000 ticket. We have not estimated that for what, 2 years now, Kyle?
Yeah, 2 years. And then also on the estimate of that 27 or whatever it was, if you look in the fine print of it, I think they charge something like $60 for each sheet of plywood they have to replace. And just looking at, I don't know how many sheets of plywood they're going to have to replace. It definitely will be more than one.
Yeah. And wood prices are going through the ceiling right now.
Right.
So, yeah.
30 might be a good idea.
Bump that to 30.
to protect ourselves in a sense.
Seems the agreement is to move up to 30. Steve, Joe, you guys in agreement?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
good.
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Can we defer the furnace for the building for another year?
I guess, I don't know.
I mean, it's the first I heard about it. So, I mean, I was, public buildings trustee for ages and nobody had mentioned anything about issues with that other than the old furnace that we replaced a few years ago. So I would,
The one we replaced this past year is what started the conversation about the second one.
okay.
So it's been recommended. If you want to hold on that,
Once again, if we're making cuts, if it becomes emergency at some point, we can readdress the budget issue, but I just soon hold off on that.
okay. All right, so scratch the boardroom ventilation system, scratch the second furnace, and bump up the salt dome by 3K.
Mhm.
All right. Parks we've taken, yeah, we got parks.
Yep.
And we got the squad.
Yep.
Okay. I got my glasses. Now, where are we?
Streets and highways.
Your
That's the
cap?
end, that's the total sheet.
No, it brings us to streets and highways. Streets and highways, we've got $420,000 requested in the budget. We've got 86,000 for a vehicle, and we've got 10,400 for equipment. The 420 is an accumulation of some money that we put aside the last couple of years for Sleepy Hollow Road. If you recall, I was talking to, we were going to have to come up with a portion of that. We've got the state contribution. They will pay 75% of the project. We will pay 25%. Jeff Steele provided the information from KCOM. At this point, with the estimated engineering numbers we've got, the village's share is going to be about $181,000. Okay. We've got 420 in streets for next year. We've also got 235 plus in MFT funds. The MFT funds can be used for Sleepy Hollow Road, or we can use capital 5-year cap funds for Sleepy Hollow Road. Okay, so there's a possibility that we've got a couple of $100,000 in the street program at 420 that's a little above and beyond right now. So we can scratch that and it will help the bottom line, or we can continue. I think if we dropped it from 420 to 200, that gives us a little leeway with roads funds we can use, because those would not be MFT. So we could use those on swales or drainage, which would still be in the purpose of maintaining the roads and helping the roads. That we've got to fall back onto. And we still maintain our MFT funds and reduce our budget by $200,000.
We're getting pretty close to a balanced budget then, aren't we?
We're getting, that would pretty much, your decision to go with the equipment in Sabatino Park probably is going to keep us from getting there. Because we had it forecast about a $235,000 deficit. If we drop 200 off of the street program, that brings us to a $35,000 deficit. And so we're pretty close. Better than what we started out.
Good option.
So the consensus is we'll strike the other improvements under streets and highways from 420 to 200.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd be good with that.
Okay. Okay. That brings
With,
us,
With the, under equipment, we had a salt spreader and a snow plow, Kyle?
some of that stuff is from years past that gets.
Yeah, that's, well, I'm not looking at what's the dollar amount?
10,400. It was,
Yeah, that's to replace salt spreader and snow plow if they end up breaking during the season.
how many, like, with the salt spreader, that's on the back of the big truck that spins?
It's on the three, it's on the three big, it's on the big internationals and the 450. And then the internationals have a big orange plow from Monroe, and the 450 has a plow from Western.
And salt and the spreader, I mean, the more we use it, the more the ball bearings or whatever start to fail, right?
Right.
How did it work well this year?
Yeah, I mean,
Money on it.
yeah, we haven't had any. Well, I haven't had a salt spreader break off where I've had to get a completely new one. I've had to order parts here and there, but I believe we've left that like that just in case of an emergency, so we have the funds for it.
Yeah.
You can scratch it if you want, but
No,
that's what it's in there for.
I think it's a good idea.
Well, you look at the budget though, yeah, we didn't spend anything this year.
Right,
We didn't spend anything year before.
right,
The year before that, it was $20,000.
right.
So,
So we're in line half, so we're half, yeah.
the vehicle, the 86,000 is the 450. We're fine with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Anything else for 5-year cap? No? Okay. Waterworks operation. Joe, you got any comments on this one?
No, I work with Brian and Kyle, work with them quite a bit. I am good with all these numbers, and I think we should be good here, so.
Okay.
Kyle, you didn't have any comments, did you? I mean, what's,
No, I mean, I met with Pickett and Brian over the cost of stuff, and I think we're at what we can be at.
Okay. Everybody happy with the water budget?
Looks good.
Yes.
Yeah, looks good.
Realize it is showing a deficit of $149,000.
talking to Brian, a lot of it is not he's not really incorporated the new rate changes that went into effect the first of the year, and there's some other issues in that in there, so I think I'm good with that, so.
Well, you do have 127,000 in depreciation, which is just a book number.
Right,
Your true.
and that's an issue that we're working on now.
Deficit will be about $21,000.
Yeah, so.
Okey doke. Anybody have any questions in the water department? Geez, we might get through this one yet tonight. Okay, we got the DNI, that's nothing we can do on that. The sewage fund. Joe, Kyle, any comments on the sewer fund?
I don't see how, unless Kyle, something else, how we can touch that until we get everything resolved with West Dundee, because the numbers sway around so much with that. So I'm just good with keeping what we have, and we will work our way through that. Kyle?
I agree.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to throw up one question. I mentioned it to you. There's no funds in the sewage department for legal fees.
We're going to have to work our way through that, because I discussed some of those other issues with you. So, I mean, I don't know how we figure that out now. We'll have to sort it out.
Mr. Schuster, you got any ideas as to what your,
I don't, it's something I could look up, I believe, but not this moment.
no.
Steve or Mark, give me a call sometime this week when I know you're really busy. We'll work through it because I also had some questions about our capacity issue and that reserve capacity we have for
Sure,
commercial
sure.
or so, and which also revolves to the getting some of those issues sorted out with West Dundee before we can come across those numbers.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
is that okay with you, Steve? That I work crunch
I'll
it out
give
with
you a
Mark.
call.
Yeah, Joe, that's fine. It's just, as I said, my question now is, we don't have the funds in sewage to pay for the legal fees that we're incurring with the sewer. We're paying those funds from general.
I think that we'll have to do the same thing we did like with the meters and eventually make a loan or pay it back or readjust our rates or figure out where we're going to go with that. But until we figure out what those numbers are, it doesn't seem prudent to, we can't figure out what the sewer increases are going to be until we figure out what's going out at West Dundee and the sewer flumes and that. Do you agree, Kyle? Is that kind of where we're at? And
I
that excess
agree. I just
capacity?
don't know how long that's gonna be. I mean, that might
Yeah,
be
that's so.
end of the summer, fall.
Right. I mean, they'll get paid, eventually all the funds will get back to where they belong. It's just a matter of figuring out how we do that. And that's acceptable, isn't it, Mark? For budgeting and legal?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just so you're aware that that line item needs to be paid attention to, because we've only got 150 residents on the sewer system, and the other 750 are paying the legal fee for them.
Right, but there's also that 30% or more, I think Jeff Steele has the numbers of the reserve capacity the village is holding back. So that's the other elephant in the room, so to speak. So
Okay,
we'll get it all figured out. We'll get it figured out.
okay. Anything else on the sewage then? Once again, this one's showing a deficit of about 36,000. But please pay attention to the fact that we do have a depreciation book value of about 28,000, thus making it only about an $8,000 deficit for sewer. So we got about a $40,000 deficit with water and an $8,000 deficit with sewer.
And I may mention, Steve, just to make the other board members feel better about that deficit, is there are still some unresolved sewer bills at West Dundee, correct?
Correct. Right. And there's a possibility we can get some credit going forward from West Dundee on some of the issues that have arisen with these flumes.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the budget? We just might have the whole budget approved tonight, unless you want to see it with the revisions.
I would just soon vote it and get this done with. As I said, some of those big numbers, we can't spend the money until we vote to spend it. So I would move that we approve the budget with the changes that you just documented, Steve.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Nemec and seconded by Moreno to approve the budget as presented. Any further comments, questions, or discussion?
With the revisions that we talked about.
Right.
Right.
Okay. No other comments, questions, or discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Datley,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Moreno,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Harney.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes. The budget so passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, one other quick item there for the president's report, and that is my appointments. I said I appointed the trustees. I also have other appointments, the village engineer, the village attorney, and the chief of police. For village engineer, I am appointing Gerald Hines of East Dundee with their associate Jeff Steele. Village attorney, appointing Mark Schuster as village attorney. As village chief of police, I appoint Sam Parma as the new chief of police with an effective date of, who's pouring water?
The trustee was not at his camera. Sorry, I forgot to mute.
Going that late, Joe.
There's water. The disappearing cup there, Kyle. Is it that loud?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I apologize.
Just appointing a new chief of police.
He went to get his bathing suit.
So.
Is that I'm sorry, Mr. President, was that effective on a certain day?
Yes, that's what we were looking at. Monday, the 24th. So it won't be a formal swearing in at a board meeting, but I'll swear him in on the 24th with the clerk as chief of police.
And if you'd like me to come to
Excellent.
the meeting on the 17th, I'd be glad to come if we can.
Yeah. Mr. Parma is currently employed in South Barrington and will be so until Monday, the Tuesday, the 18th.
Yes.
So that's why we've moved his appointing date a little beyond to the 24th, in which time he would then take over. But he's offered to come on the 17th. What do you think, Mr. Schuster?
Well,
he's
I
not
guess
in-
we can talk about that, but if he's going to start to work on the 17th, or is he volunteering to come in for a few days to orient himself? I didn't understand.
an orientation. Okay, there would be an orientation if you'd like to attend on the 17th, and then we'd still have the swearing in and the active date later. Okay, so
Okay,
we want to do a formal one, we'll do it the 24th here, or no, it would have to be June. Because, yeah, but if you're willing to come on the 24th, the clerk and I can meet you and swear you in
That's fine.
and get to, that's all right, isn't it, Mr. Schuster? To swear him in?
the swearing in? Yeah, oh, certainly.
Right, we can do that at any time. We don't have to do that at the board meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so that is my appointment. I appoint Samuel J. Parma Jr. as the next chief of police for the village of Sleepy Hollow at a salary of $82,000 per year, plus the regular benefits that go with it, the vacation, the holidays, the sick time. So if I could have a motion to approve those appointments.
So moved, Diatley.
Harney seconds.
Motion by Diatley, seconded by Harney to approve the appointments as made. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Moreno,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Harney.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes. The motion so passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I look forward to working with you and the board in the coming years.
Thank you, sir. All right. Now, that is the budget and the appointments. The next one is a resolution 533. A resolution authorizing the village to loan funds from the general fund to the water fund in an amount not to exceed $161,592.45 to the finance in part of the water 2019 water replacement project. If you guys recall, see, we did a water main replacement about 7 years ago. The village borrowed money from the bank for the water department to use in the water main replacement. But we still had to borrow some money from general fund to finish the project, or no. We borrowed the money from the sewer department, and we can set up an inter-fund loan between ourselves. Okay? Water can loan sewer, sewer can loan water, general fund can loan sewer or water. And that's what we did with the water mains. Then if you recall, in 2019, we replaced the water meters. Originally, the water meters were scheduled to go in a two-phase operation, possibly three. When we got into it though, the numbers worked out to our benefit to do it in 1 year as opposed to try and spread this thing out over 2 or 3 years. So the board decided to go with the 1 year replacement program rather than the multi-replacement. The problem was water didn't have enough funds to make to that entire amount. So what we said we would do is arrange a loan from general fund to water in the amount of $161,000. Once we made that decision, then all sorts of other stuff started happening. The former director of finance left before he was able to process the loan papers for this situation. Then we had a couple of temps in through there, and we finally been able to settle down with the pandemic and all the remote working and whatnot. The finance guy from LNA has got it all together, and that is what Resolution 533 is tonight. It is the layout of the establishment of a loan from general fund to the water department to pay for those meters in the amount of $161,000 and change, with a payback of 10 years. And the figures are should be in your packet. But this will go into effect on water bills June 1st. So this would be start next month, not this month, and go forward. So that is what Resolution 533 is. Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I just want to take another opportunity to, well, for some of the new board members, people don't know, is that Kyle had worked very hard to get the most economical plan to replace these, and we had made it more, one of the issues we did, why we had to do it in 1 year, was to replace the reader, which was potentially failing, which would have caused us some great heartache. So I want to thank Kyle for getting this all done, and that's it. And I should point out to the board that we must prove the rate increases lower down under new business to pay for this. So.
Okay, if I could have a motion to approve Resolution 533.
So moved.
Second, Diatley.
Moved by Nemec, seconded by Diatley to approve the loan from the general fund to the water department in an amount of $161,592.45. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Nemec,
Aye.
Mr. Datley,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Prano,
Aye.
Mr. Harney.
Aye.
Motion so passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
How come I'm always last?
Okay, that is it for the president's report, I believe. Clerk's report.
I have no report, especially to the last comment about why he's always last.
Okay,
But I can change that.
thank you, Mr. Mill. Oh, that's right.
No, you forgot.
There is another appointment I have to make. The village clerk.
Uh-oh. Do we know anybody?
I don't know anybody that'd take that job.
I don't either. I've tried. Noreen keeps, and Noreen, if you're listening to this, it's yours, please.
Okay, so before I go any further, I would like to appoint the village clerk as Anthony Mills for the duration of my term. Do I have a motion?
I move that we appoint Anthony Mills as village clerk for the duration of the village president's 4-year term.
Second.
Moved by Moreno, seconded by Thorne to appoint Anthony Mills as the village clerk. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Datley,
Aye.
Mr. Prano,
Thanks for not making me last. Aye.
Mr. Nimitz.
Aye.
Motion so
That's how I
passes.
said it.
Boy, I should read my own notes sometime. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Planning and zoning, no report. Attorney, Mr. Schuster.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Engineer, Mr. Steele.
Just more of a notification is property at 1802 Hillcrest Drive is proposing to replace the front portion of their driveway in order to actually replace their culvert. As part of that culvert replacement is they'd like to install a retaining wall on both sides, both the up and downstream side of their culvert. If you recall, last year, I believe it was, is Fawn Court had actually proposed the exact same thing. At that time there was nothing in the code in regards to those retaining walls. So basically what was allowed was for them to actually install those retaining walls with the caveat of basically taking liability for the installation of the retaining walls in the village right of way. Barb had created a document for that. So basically is the question in regards to 1802 Hillcrest Drive is if we'd allow that same kind of agreement. Just to give you an idea, along Hillcrest Drive is for about the past 5 years, as we've been aware, just no funding, is that drainage ditch along both sides of the road is in very poor shape. There's a lot of erosion that happens along that road. Installing the retaining wall along that culvert is actually be very beneficial as far as to that driveway, mostly because a lot of erosion right now is currently actually washing away that culvert. So I see no issues with having the retaining wall there. The only other issue would be is they're hoping to put a cap block, which is basically about 8 inches above the elevation of the driveway. Really, that I think that'd be up to Kyle if he'd want that, mostly just because afraid if the snowplow hits it or something else hits it, obviously it'll do damage possibly to that. So just want to get a feel on the board's opinion on that.
I have no issue with that because we did it before and I'm very familiar. We've walked that same area there and had really bad drainage problems. So it seems like a good solution.
Barb,
Yeah.
you have a question, comment?
I was just going to comment that I did speak with the property owner again this afternoon, and she's more than willing to sign the affidavit that Mr. Schuster prepared. Thank you for the credit there, Jeff, but Mr. Schuster did that. And she has no problem with doing that, and I did advise that that cap would be determined pretty much tonight, whether or not that would be allowed. Because the other thing they had suggested was riprap, and I don't think that's going, in my humble opinion, isn't going to do the same that the retaining wall would do. And the driveway is actually failing because the culvert is washed out over there. And she can't afford to replace the whole driveway.
Yeah, I would have no problem with it as long as the cap doesn't affect Kyle and, like I said, his snow plowing ability through there.
Okay. Joe's in agreement. Mr. Diatley's in agreement. Ed's nodding his head in affirmative motion. Mr. Thorne's in affirmative motion.
I'm good.
Anthony's good with it. So, we got her agreement, then we're fine. Thanks for the
Kyle,
anything
Kyle
else?
at the cap, did Kyle want to comment about the cap or is that?
Kyle?
How close to the road is it going to be?
Basically, they're proposing is, I believe it's 7 feet. Yeah, 7 feet wide. So basically, it'd be 3.5 feet on the culvert center. So that brings it probably 1.5 feet, 2 feet. If you want, we can go out there tomorrow or later on this week and take a look at it and actually see.
Yeah, I don't imagine having any problems with the snowplow or anything like that. I think with the one on Fawn Court, didn't we say that they could do it? But if there, any damages come to it, it was going to be at their expense.
Yeah, that was part of the agreement
Yeah.
that Barb has there.
Then yeah, I have no problem with it at all.
Okay. All right. Then I get that situation's resolved? Okay, anything else, Mr. Steele?
That is it, other than June 11th is the letting date for the Sleepy Hollow Road. So look forward to that.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. All right, thank you, Mr. Steele. Finance report, we don't have any warrants. Jeez. We did the pledge, we have no warrants. Okay, comments from the public. No one in the public wants to make comments. We start with trustee reports, roads and parks. Mr. Harney?
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Finance, we don't have anything from Mr. Ziemba at the moment. Water and sewer, Joe?
Nothing now.
Okay, thank you. Police and public safety, Mr. Diatley.
Yeah, just have one thing. You'll notice that there is a notice in your packet. We want to promote Officer Christian if I say this wrong, I apologize, Deori, to full-time status at a salary of $55,031.04. So I'd like to make that motion that we move forward with that.
Second, Moreno.
Okay, motion by Diatley to approve the promotion of Officer Diori from part-time to full-time. Seconded by Moreno. The salary was $55,000.
$31.04.
$1.04. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne, Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Diatley,
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes. The motion so passes. Thank you, Pete. Okay, anything else for police and public safeties, Mr. Diatley?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you, sir. Public building and environment.
No reports.
You got that down in a hurry, didn't you? Okay, practice makes perfect. Building and zoning, Anthony.
I'll defer to Ms. Detmer. In our packet, we received email, President Pickett, with some residents listed. So Barb, if you want to jump in and discuss that.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Just to try and give you some background, that first item, 1909 Maria Court, she has withdrawn her plan for variance. She's been having challenges over the year with the residents at 906 Willow. She stated, so this is secondhand to me, that there is issues with drug use, et cetera, there. And it spills over into her property. They had a huge bonfire the other evening. It was not during the normal burning time frame. So she's had a lot of issues, but she is going to go ahead and she has a new permit for redoing her deck. But she will not be asking for the additional height on the deck fence. Down the road, she may take that into consideration. The other items have, as I've explained in these, I've tried to work with the citizens. They've been given notices. They've been given violation notices. They've been given time to comply. They're not doing that. So what I'm kind of looking for in this instance is hopefully some allowance for perhaps Mr. Schuster to drop a nice letter on behalf of the village to push this more towards the enforcement side to perhaps get their attention. So that's what's going on with those. The other items on Hillcrest Drive, we have an individual over on Maria Court who last year put up garden, very large wood framed garden, and then proceeded to put a permanent fence up on top of it. Around it, it appears to be in the floodplain. Mr. Steele has been working diligently with them and has given her the information as to how to proceed to get that out of the floodplain. But these folks have also come in for a pergola permit. the whole structure is in the floodplain per record, I cannot issue any permits until they get this issue with the floodplain resolved. So that one, she goes, well, but what about these across the creek that are in the floodplain? And so if you want, I'll gladly send out the letters with the information that Mr. Steele has previously provided with the Marina Court. I'll do that at no charge, so you don't have to worry about it. But if it goes past that point, it may need some additional support, shall I say, from the village board if we need to move with if they don't want to go through that process.
Give a question when you're on that. It's the fence that can't be in the floodplain. The gardens can be allowed in the floodplain?
If it were just a garden, it could be allowed.
Right.
But they have built up a structure about 24
Okay,
inches high, solid wood. They backfilled into that to bring the soil into the floodplain.
okay.
And then on top of it, our ordinance is that it's temporary garden fences. We have this issue around the village that people have taken liberty with what they think is temporary garden fences. That's down my list,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
And so that's where the issue is. They were given that information last year and it took them a while. When they came in with the pergola permit, I said, no, we're not doing anything until you get this floodplain issue resolved.
Okay.
Because if we don't get it resolved, the village could be become liable. And I'm not about to issue a permit and have the village liable and answering to not only the state, but possibly to the feds.
Sure.
So Jeff has been outstanding in helping me with this, but I just wanted to let you know, she's now saying, it's not just me, it's this, and this. So if it's okay with the board, I'll gladly send letters out on these other ones to notify them that it appears that they are, and it's up to them to prove up and get themselves out of there.
Is there an address on the Hillcrest one?
Yes. I have 3 addresses.
Okay. Do you have
Please
those?
understand, this item was kind of like a discussion format
Okay.
in a previous meeting, and I honestly hadn't expected it to come in this format to the village border. It would have been a little bit tidier, shall I say.
Well, the notes on the bottom are mine.
I know you know, I know you mentioned some of the addresses were off by a digit or two
Yeah,
also.
that last one on Hilltop was actually the mayor's neighbor. So it's supposed to be, I believe, 144 instead of 146. Just throw an issue on my part, I apologize.
And the Hilltop one was 156? The one, the other one
No,
above it?
154 is correct,
154 is correct?
yes.
146 is not. It's
Right, that's
Yeah,
144.
146 was 144, it didn't get corrected on his.
And the 3 on Hillcrest Drive, do you have those addresses?
Not off the top
Okay,
of my head.
that's fine.
I've got them all laid out and checked the floodplains and everything, and
Okay.
they're definitely there. So they're basically right across from Marina Port. So the issues, Mr. Prado brought up 154 Hilltop. That one did a project last year without permit. Finally submitted the permit, but didn't get the plat of survey, which is required, and the pool that was put up without permit appeared to be in the required easement. The individual thought that the village should be having a plat of survey, and a lot of citizens think that, because unfortunately, that is between a seller and a purchaser. It is not a government document. It's purely a means so the individual knows their legal means and bounds for their property. And she was advised to get a plat of survey. And then we had a complaint from another citizen who took out the proper door permit, that same property had done a change of door, and without a permit, was given permits, and to date that hasn't come in. So that's one of those that, just for additional background on that. So, like I said, if we could get some direction that Mr. Schuster could take part in numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5, we number those out. And then the rest are pretty much just food for thought for the board to think about, going in. We've been getting a lot of gazebos / pergolas put up without permit. They are structures. They should have a permit. We've got big box stores and large building supply places and kind of things that can sell these out of the box kind of structures, and people think they can come in and just put them up over the weekend, and especially if they're getting put up on decks, there are ramifications, because if they don't have the proper support underneath them, they could become an airborne hazard in high wind conditions if they're just fastening them into deck boards, that type of thing. So I know those are going up. Last year we had an influx of swimming pools, with the swimming pool being closed because of COVID. I'm not sure if we're going to face that again this year, but anything that's 24 inches water depth or more is required to have a permit. And that oftentimes gets overlooked in 24 inches. I should measure better here, I apologize. And then the other thing is we do have permits out on the Locust Drive apartments for the lighting. So that permit has been issued, Mr. Nemrick.
Thank you.
Welcome. We're going to be working out a time when I can actually do a nighttime inspection to read on that. And then we're having some challenges with the owner of the shopping center not coming into compliance. I calculated out their lamps, and they're somewhere around 300-foot candles instead of 3-foot candles, and 1,100-foot candles instead of 3-foot candles. So they have a lot of explanation to do besides just tipping down the lights. So that's that. And then the other and last item, and then I'll try and be quiet, is we have RPZs in the village. Our planner came in and helped me go through all of the village's files and clean them up, and we put in a separate binder with all of the backflow reports, which is what the RPZ is. That brought to light that we have a lot that haven't gotten their annual inspection as they're required by state law to have. And so it's my thought, with the approval of the village board, I will come up with this list of the owners, and I will send out a letter notifying them that they basically have 15 days to get their RPZs tested and those results to it. Again, I'll do that at no charge to the village. So as long as I have your blessing to go ahead with that, I would like that authorization, if I may.
Thank you for explaining all that. Just a brief comment. I actually drove by 1909 Maria and 906 just to kind of get a perspective of what they were looking at. And when I saw the word drug paraphernalia on here, I thought back that when the state approved that use for residents, I believe that the law states you cannot be outside on your deck in view of,
Public view.
right, a
You
public,
cannot be in public view. It
right,
doesn't
so,
say you cannot be on your deck.
okay, so you can't be in public view. So if the 1909 Maria is on their deck and they visually see 906 Willow, that would jump it up to, a police situation, I believe. So just thinking out loud that, she's following a certain procedure for the deck and so forth, but,
You might want to suggest you call 911 on drug paraphernalia.
well, if it's, call 311
We
and
don't have
have,
311.
yeah, with, well, non-emergency number, just have somebody come out and take a look if that's something that she feels is a threat to her residents. So yeah, if you're able to put that stuff together, that's wonderful. I think that, we have codes in place and we have enforcement in place. I'm not suggesting we change any of that. I know that Ms. Detmer, some months ago, we put something in the village newsletter, a brief explanation as kind of a reminder to people of what permits are required. And if it does escalate, escalate into bigger issues, then certainly, if the village attorney, as a suggestion, did some type of a letter, that's something we can discuss, and then obviously it goes down the steps with court appearances and so forth. So, but thank you for putting this together for us.
Hey, Barb.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just you had said garden fences are temporary, and at the time when the garden fences were approved by the zoning board, they had used the verbiage during the growing season, and I had asked the question at that time about that pretty much like year round, because if you're growing garlic or onions or kale or some other things, they're in the ground year round. So we may want to possibly look at the verbiage of that and think about that. So
Why don't we do that?
I
Okay,
didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I'm not sure where I'm speaking to.
to the ceiling.
Oh.
To the ceiling.
The ceiling, hi ceiling. Yeah, we can take that under advisement, and I think the zoning board probably has a few other things that they're gonna want to tweak going forward, so we'll look at that part, okay?
Right. So okay, thanks.
Okay, I believe Ms. Detmer would like the consensus of the board for her to have conversations with the village attorney in regards to possibly encouraging a few of our residents to comply.
I would say that's correct and a good move.
Anthony's in favor of it. Mr.
I'd
Dan?
be fine with it.
Sounds good, make it a strong word.
Okay. The consensus of the board, Mr. Schuster, is that you can assist Ms. Detmer with a very strongly worded letter
Yes, sir.
to encourage our residents to conform. Okay, anything else?
If I may, I would be happy to work with the newsletter, especially since we're coming up on that summer season, to remind citizens, we put it in the summer newsletter.
Sure.
What's the deadline?
I have it for the 10th, but I can go a few days, as long as it's before the 17th board meeting.
Okay.
We can work with it.
Thank you, that'd be great.
Hey, and Barb,
Yes, sir.
just for clarification, because I have sat under a large structure at a large box store that's headquarters in Washington, and thought this seems really nice, but I understand that is not allowed. So you may want to clarify actually what you mean by gazebos and structures, because they are very appealing and they seem like you could just like toss them in your backyard or on your deck. So, because I assume you're not talking about like the tent type structures or umbrellas or things like that, correct?
I don't look at umbrellas or ones that can be literally taken up and put down the same day. So
Yeah.
we have the ones that have like probably about an 8x8 plate that requires 4 fasteners into concrete or wood, and it basically becomes part of a structure.
Right.
That
Yeah. So if you could whatever gets put off and clarify that, I think that would be helpful, because I don't want people to panic.
I will be glad to make that, at least I'll attempt to make it clear.
Thank you, Barb.
Okay, anything else with building and zoning?
That's all I have, thank you.
That's it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Detmer, and thank you, Mr. Moreno. Okay. Old business. Any old business to come before the new board? We haven't even been here long enough to have any old business. Okay, new business. Ordinance 2021-6, an ordinance amending the water billing charges to the village.
I would like to move to approve ordinance 2021-6 to change the water rates effective, as Steve had already said, June 1st, you said, Steve?
Yes.
June 1st, and with the exception of changing the Park District water rate to be verbiage as Mark is about to read us or give us.
What?
The Park District rate would be equal to the commodity charge, the current commodity charge from the city of Elgin. There would not be a meter charge or a demand charge that would be added to the Park District billing. Is that right, Mr. Nemec?
That's correct, yeah. And that's just to go along with the other government entity. We have the Fire Protection District, and just doesn't, since we're basically taxing another taxing body who tax the people in the community. So it just seemed like the right thing to do, Mr. Pickett's suggestion.
Right. So they'll pay basically for the water because the village gets a bill for that.
Right.
So.
But it's just a pass through basically, so.
Right.
Right.
And they really don't use, they don't use a ton of water, but every little bit helps keep that pool around as long as we can. It keeps their costs down.
Mhm.
Oh, you
That's
want
my
your
motion.
enterprise fund to break even.
Right.
So,
Right. Diatley, second.
This is, okay, motion by Nemec, seconded by Diatley to approve ordinance 2021-6, an ordinance to change the water rates. Anthony just had a question about a date. We were talking June 1st. Were you saying January for 2022?
This is on this document here, page 5 of that attachment. You scroll down from the ordinance. It talks about $9.02 per 1,000 gallons effective January 1st, 2022.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So the Village of Elgin has already given us a written notification of their water increases for those years. In the past, we've always just done that at the January 1st meeting. Since they've given us 4 years of rate increases, I just thought we'd save the attorney fees and the time and effort and just incorporate them now for our budgetary purposes and for residents to know what the fees are going to be, since we already know.
That's fine. I understand the dates now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions regarding ordinance 2021-6? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Moreno,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne.
5 affirmative votes, no negative votes. The motion so passes. Okay, the next item is a request from the Dundee Township 708 Mental Health Board. They have sent us a request asking if they could utilize our boardroom on the second Thursday of the month. They meet for about 6:30, and their meetings typically run an hour to 2 hours in length. They made the request in writing. Historically, we have allowed different parties within the community to utilize this boardroom. We've allowed homeowners associations, we've allowed the service club, we've allowed the Democratic precinct committeemen. There's just been a number of groups through the years that have used this building at no charge, as long as they notify the office and they don't conflict with any of our meetings. They give us an annual schedule and timing, then we will make arrangements with them to unlock the building for them and to resecure the building upon their departure. So that's the question this evening from the 708 Mental Health Board. Will we allow them to utilize our boardroom for their meetings on a monthly basis for the rest of the year?
Steve, I thought we just had a policy that they went by the office, and as long they had a schedule and they kept it, and with your concurrence, I didn't think we actually voted these in the board in the past. I thought it was just a.
This is typically a little bit different with the boardroom itself, Joe. And they've made a formal request.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but I don't think we've done board approval in the past. I think it's just a consensus that.
708 would like a, board consensus. And that,
Yeah.
so that's why it's an action item for this evening.
Yeah,
Two comments, Mr. President. Number one, has the township appointed a full board?
Yes, they have.
And number two, their funding is in dispute.
Correct. We're not charging them.
Okay. Right, but they intend to meet, even though they have no funding, they intend to begin meeting?
They're gonna have a meeting or two to find out what's going on with that. Whether, you know,
All right,
if they
and
got no funds, I don't think they're gonna have any other meetings after that, but
maybe short-lived. Is there a reason they're not using the township facility?
They don't know what the new board.
they
is
don't know what
gonna
the
do.
new, what their reception will be at the new township board.
The old board voted to go to litigation, the new board, who knows what they're gonna do.
What about, do they do Zoom?
They said in person.
So they don't want to
They have,
utilize any of our,
They have 5 members? Or 7, I can't recall.
I don't know what's the seven.
Yeah, I'm a little. Yeah, it's at least 5, I think, and it might be as many as 7.
and they're not going to utilize any of our electronic equipment or
No.
video, right?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think, as I said in the past, we've had people use it and just call up the office and ask, and the police come and open up the doors for them and leave the
Well, I
lights
think
on, and
we-
everything else locked up. So I have no issue with anybody, any group using the village hall for whatever reason.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
Good.
consensus of the board is it's okay. All right. We will move forward on that. The next item is the due date on the animal tags and vehicle stickers. The due date was Friday, April 30th. We are still running behind. The staff has asked if we want to extend the deadline on the due date another 30 days. If you recall, last year, we postponed it, I believe it was 60 days because of the pandemic. And a lot of people still don't know where we are in the pandemic. Is it over? Is it still underway? Is the office open? Is the office closed? Can I come in? Can I mail? My thought is maybe we should extend the deadline until May 31st. Give them another day, another month.
Do we notify the residents, maybe then through the newsletter as well, or?
We can throw it in, well, depends on the newsletter won't be out till the end of May.
Oh.
It will go on June 1st.
Yeah,
Right.
go June 1st, but we can put it on the website and send it out that, you know, the extension has been, the deadline has been extended until the 31st of May. If I could have a motion to so
So,
Second.
moved by Harney, seconded by Moreno to extend the vehicle sticker and the animal tag deadline from April 30th to May 31st, 2021 for the current season, current year. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? There being none, roll call, please.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
5 affirmative motions, no negative motions,
Votes.
so carries. Okay, any other new business to come before the board?
Nope.
There no new business come before the board? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Diatley.
Second.
Moved by Diatley, seconded by Thorne.
Somebody second it.
I was gonna say, somebody second that.
Thorne seconded it. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Dattley,
Aye.
Mr. Thorne,
Aye.
Mr. Nimitz,
Aye.
Mr. Harney,
Aye.
Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
5 affirmative motions, no negative motions. We are adjourned. We will see you all at 7:30, May 17th, same place.
Gentlemen, have a good evening.
You too.
Good evening.
Yep.
What little bit that's left of it.
Yeah, not much left.